You know, Benjamin Franklin once said, there's nothing certain about life except death and tax. And in Korea, however, those professionals working in religious services, that has not exactly been the case. I'm not actually talking about death, of course, but tax. For 50 years here in Korea, we've been debating when these professionals in religious services should start paying their taxes because they have been exempt from their duty here. It looks like now the time seems to be approaching where they will actually have to start doing so because Korea is trying to implement measures to lift the exemptions. However, though, the debate is still continuing, and that's what we want to talk about right here in this program, Upfront.
The issue of taxing members of religious groups has been brought to the fore. The idea has been a bone of contention for years, with supporters arguing equality in taxation and critics claiming the work of the clergy is a spiritual service, not labor. Following the passage of a bill to amend the income tax law at the National Assembly in December of 2015, the government was originally scheduled to start levying taxes on the nation's clergy members from January of 2018. But recently, 25 lawmakers have tabled a bill to postpone the plan for 2 more years, sparking a public controversy. The religious community is sharply divided over deferring the taxation. The Catholic Church in Korea has already been paying an income tax voluntarily since 1994, and Buddhist sectors are supporting the taxation as well as its scheduled implementation. However, the country's conservative Protestant church groups are strongly urging that another grace period be given. On this week's Upfront, we examine different stances about delaying the taxation for clergy members and take a look at the latest discussions regarding this issue.
Well, for today's discussion, we have 2 guests joining us in studio. Ernst Lee, professor from Hanyang University, professor of international studies. Thank you very much, as always.
It's always my pleasure. Thank you.
And also, Chae Sang-mi, our familiar face as well, joining us from Ewha University School of Business, joining here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
You know, this is not an easy topic because it involves religion and money. And so the views are divided. So I hope you can do what you can in terms of contributing to help our viewers understand the issue altogether. Overall landscape, Professor Chae, for those viewers who are joining us from overseas who have no idea what we are talking about, share with us what the issue is.
You know what, Korea, you know, is the only one country not imposing that income tax for clergy group amongst 35 OECD countries. So that's why we are discussing that issue today. But in 2015, we already passed a bill that requires that income tax for the religious group levy. And then at the time that the people in that religious area, they insist that they are not ready for paying the tax. That's why they gave me 2 years of grace period already. And this year, because there are only 5 months left until the enactment, you know, so that's why they request another 2 years of delay. So I don't know, during 50 years after 1968, you know, the first head of IRS, Korean IRS, insists that the clergy group need to also have duty as a Korean people need to pay income tax. So in that perspective, you know, the delay another 2 years, I don't know. I think it's too much request, you know.
Your opinion is already made quite clear here, but Professor Ernst Lee, the 50 years, how intense do you think the debate has been in a way, the division of opinion and so on, in terms of overall landscape?
I think this is a very much important issue in Korean, not only just religious paradigm, but political paradigm as well. One of the things the Korean national citizen cannot bear is tax issues. I'm paying tax crystal clear from my paycheck, but if there is somebody who made huge fortune, but you know, found out that he or she didn't pay tax properly, then we cannot endure that.
So that's not only Korean thing, it's universal. Human being, nature of the human being.
The fundamental concept of tax is when you make money, you pay tax. But the fundamental concept started, is it something that I get from the token of appreciation of my labor work?
Right.
So is it salary or is it inconsistent offering?
Right.
The concept was there. And once salary is there, you can charge tax equally 12 months.
Right.
But if offering is, when the economy is booming, you can have a much more offerings.
Right.
But when the economy is in the doldrum, you have less one. So, tax system cannot adjust each time.
Right.
So it's been a long, lingering issue. And the second point, this has been a lot of resistance, faced a lot of resistances from voters. Majority of voters were religious people. So there was no brave National Assembly member, either is opposition party or ruling party. They come in together to charge tax.
To discuss that issue, we have to take a look at the fact that from 2014, Catholic Church as well as the monk and Buddhist temple, they already voluntarily paid their income tax. So we cannot say that all of religious group, resistance about paying their income tax. So that's the issue.
It's still divided.
Yeah, among the Protestant church, only few sect of group, they insist, they're providing service, religious service. It's not a labor, so that's why they cannot pay.
Well, in response to your argument, I certainly agree. That's the fact. But in the big picture of the religious map in Korea, more than 50% of Presbyterians and church-related religious group. So there are many tribes, many departments, many religious groups entangled in this group. So there should have been a general consensus how to and what to pay tax. But there has not been enough general consensus in this area. And the fundamental concept, is it salary that I get from my labor or a token of appreciation from voters or from the religious people who are believers who already pay the tax already. So they pay offering with a net income after tax. So if you charge again, this is double taxation issue.
Point. That's very
so
interesting.
That has been an ongoing issue, apart from resistance from politicians about their voting and constitutional area. So
you're making this debate even more interesting than I thought it is. But so let's get into further details later. Next year, the starting point.
Yes, January.
Those who oppose the idea saying, still we're not ready.
Yes.
And the government is saying, oh, what are we talking about? We have had 2 years of probation or grace period, and we are ready. What's the debate? What are they talking about when they say we're not ready or we are ready? What is it?
Actually, if you look at that government's side, they insist that because that argument comes from that we have a lot of different groups of religion, and that also they insist that all of that religious organization have different management and operation process. This is very difficult to charge same rate of income tax for every religion. So, but here thing is that government want to apply personal income tax, not an organization or business tax. So they don't care, what's the difference on the operation perspective.
That is government's argument.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here the thing is, if there is certain, the clergy make a lot of income, then they need to make payments. That's all. So even though they apply same assessment criteria for today's income tax, there would not be a big problem.
I personally think government is not yet ready at all.
Really? Okay.
Because there are three main catalysts in charging tax or taxing, that we can understand in general. The first point is fairness. Fairness, okay? And transparency. Transparency means we have to identify how much money is to be charged. Okay, third point is, audit. Tax office, create IRA should check and balance if this is properly charged. If there are more charged, they repay, or less charged, they ask pay more. So these three catalysts should work. But to execute these three catalysts, there should be a fundamental system in place. I don't see that. First of all, according to data is maybe not unilateral. Ministry of Culture says the target audiences for this taxing is about 230,000 religious groups, including all religion. But specifically speaking, in the Presbyterian and church-related area, they say the numbers are incorrect. and it's only 120,000 for church-related religious group.
Okay,
so
but,
if you
but
think,
they're not including Buddhist
yeah,
here.
but you know,
Okay.
talking about 230, these numbers are varying each other, so
Okay.
it's conflicting.
All right.
And that's the reason why the government is trying to charge or tax or charging tax is for tax income, first of all, to be just straightforward.
Right.
But in reality, in practical sense of point, well, according to Ministry of Culture, the average income, so we call, if I identify it as an income, not offering, of average priest, according to 2014 number,
Yeah.
is 28,440,000.
Okay.
But
28 million.
this,
that's pretty small.
Yeah, ransom amount, in accordance with new tax law to be implemented. There are many kinds of taxes, but this is other income tax. Within the other income tax, this is religious income tax.
Right, right.
And other income tax can exempt 80% of tax.
That's true.
They can only charge 20%.
Right, right.
So if you properly assume that if a priest with a wife and a son or daughter, then there are family exemptions.
Right.
So actually, if you calculate simply, the chargeable tax amount is 2,600 according to Ministry of Culture. Is it big amount?
So small, right, right.
And if there are other costs involved, then it's minus.
Right, right. Some of the most powerful religious groups, organizations, they still argue for continuation with the extension of probation period.
Right. That does not necessarily be translated into that they have no intention to pay tax. I think the social consensus is there to pay tax. But the complexity within the group, and the complexity means consensus within the group, the fairness, transparency, and audit has not been in place, has not been systemized by the government. Government has not done enough homework in this regard because this is a very sensitive issue. With a good intention, they touch upon this kind of issue. There should have been many resistances from voters of these National Assembly members.
Right, of course.
So National Assembly members were not aggressive enough, either
Right.
as opposition or ruling party tackle this one.
Right, right.
And also now the discussion has been coming to more practical sense. As I mentioned, there would not be actual amount to be charged. And second point, there is a system in Korea, so we call EITC, which stands for Earned Income Tax Credits.
Okay, okay.
This is a system
I could
for
see that.
those lower income level people who are not up to tax charging point.
Right.
So government...
And that number is huge, right?
Yeah, tax refund.
As far as I know, it's like more than half.
More than half.
Right.
Yeah, more than half.
So people who are actually paying the earned income tax or income tax broadly is less than 50% of Korean.
Your tax is being distributed to them, actually.
Well, I'm not disclosing my income here, but we see the point here, right?
Right.
So it's very big. Those people who are exempt from the income.
Assuming that
taxation,
and 80% of religious group are not under this taxing point, they should get a social welfare benefit, tax benefit.
Right.
So EITC, Earned Income Tax Credit.
Right.
The government has to pay back to them 1 million Korean won. 1 million Korean won.
Okay.
So presumably speaking, the target income that government is trying to get from this tax will be less than the amount.
Once
this
again, very important
EITC
point.
system to be implemented. And I think 80% of religious group will report them, I'm under taxing point.
Right. So here we have Professor Choi Sang-mi who's offering us the overall majority view here, and Professor Ernst is offering very persuasive minority view here. Yes. So let's go out to the street and ask the people on the street of Korea what they think about this issue. Take a look at it and we'll come back to our discussion here.
2년 전에 더 늦춘다는 거 안 된다고 생각했는데 더 이상 더 늦춘다는 건 더 말이 안 된다고 생각합니다.
성직자라는 것도 그들의 직업이고 직업을 가진 대한민국 국민이라면 누구나 세금을 내야 되는 게 맞다고 생각합니다.
그거를 단지 종교인이란 이유만 가지고 안 내는 건 좀 옳지 않나라고 생각을 해요, 저는.
이유가 정확히 준비되지 않아서라고 하는데 이게 2년 전에 한 번 더 나왔다가 바뀐 거기 때문에 이번에는 시작을 해서 조금씩 법안을 개정하는 게 더 낫지 않을까라고 생각합니다.
저는 종교인에게 세금 받는 거는 찬성하지만 확실히 준비를 갖춘 다음에 시행해도 늦지 않다고 봅니다.
네, 종교인도 세금을 내야 되는 건 당연하다고 생각하는데 아직 사회적인 체제나 이런 게 잘 갖춰져 있지 않다고 하면 2년 정도 유예해서 차후에 완벽하게 해서 그다음 시행하는 게 좋다고 생각합니다.
So again, we see the division of opinion here slightly,
Right.
and I'm sure you have a reaction.
Well, I think, as again, there has been, the general consensus has been built that, even religious people duly have to pay tax. As I reiterate, fairness, transparency, and audit, the system is not ready. So my suggestion could be, we can have a sunset regulation system. Sunset means after some period of time, a system is automatically disappear and being implemented with a new system. So in this regard,
Even
I think
longer horizon than like 2 years.
I don't know. It will take 1 year or 2 years, but we need to think practically how much time we need to implement the system here.
Okay. As far as I know, even though you have raised a lot of technical point about it here, as far as I know, the fundamental point has been the definition of the work of the religious professionals, whether it's earned income or it's a labor or what is it basically. Your own personal view or even the majority view about how we should see the work of religious professionals?
If you look at their service, maybe education is kind of service, doctor and lawyer, they don't think, they just work for making money, for income. So they're doing, their job, they regard their job as kind of vocation. It's the same for them. But because it's religious service, it cannot be a work, Also in Korean government set the criteria that when they pay tax, income tax, they can choose between like it's a working income or it's extra income generated from like admin marriage, funeral or baptism. So they can choose. It's a kind of big preferential treatments for them, So they already got a lot of benefit for a long time, like 50 years. So, it's not the point they can start.
Once we get out of this building, for instance, we see big churches on the street on one hand, but then again, we are very mindful of some of those professionals who are working in countryside, different corners of the city, trying to help the poor people, people in trouble and so on. And those professionals, they barely make their living in trying to help other people, right? So in terms of your own view, how does this polarization play out in terms of defining the debate? What do you see?
If you bring that issue, it's kind of business because, we have organization in business, like a social enterprise and for nonprofit and the private, profit-oriented enterprise. So they have on their accounting standard, even though that organization, doing their business not for just making money, the profit, they have to get, accounting audits. Also, they need to pay taxes as well. So you can use, we can use the same standard for, assessing tax criteria.
If we say all religious professionals should do the voluntary disclosure and tax authority, we will not intervene if they declare, do you see any problem?
Well, it's a matter of system. Take an example. If I'm offering a certain amount, my income is 101, and I'm offering 21. If I get a benefit tax tax saving by me voluntarily reporting I gave 21 to church. If we have that kind of transparency, aggregation of the money numbers, I think we can charge tax. But I think we have to see why other advanced countries like Germany, they charge a withholding tax from religious organizations.
I see.
So, in the U.S. case, it's voluntarily reporting system, not just compulsory step into the church office and open the book. There are reasons for that, transparency and nature of this organization. But it's a matter of the ideas and system that, if offering those people donate money or offering to church, whatever organization, if we have some tax benefits, officially, I think that can be done. But the system is not in place.
Right.
System is not in place. Take an example. There are many good organizations, Greenpeace and Save the Children.
Yes.
They are non-profit, but they pay income tax. So there is no argument about paying or not paying. But their income tax is transparent, and we get reports from them. Where did they spend money?
Right, right.
So all reporting systems and voluntary reporting system, and also tax reporting system should be there. And the government has not been done enough work on that regard.
Right, right. Okay, now moving on to related, sub-issue on the same topic. How big would you expect in terms of additional revenue to be generated from this new tax system once government gets its own way? How big is this money?
Based on the government statistics, of course, there are a lot of criticism that their statistics is wrong.
Right, right.
But based on that, there are around 2,300 religious groups out there.
Right.
And among them, the object of taxation are 46,000 people. And they expect that earnings, revenue will be around 10 billion Korean won.
I see.
That's huge.
Okay, okay.
So.
From a government standpoint, our national budget standpoint, that's very minor money.
I see.
Individually speaking, it's big money.
This is a fairness question more than the actual revenue question?
I think so. Whether it's small or big, I think that the principle should apply. So it's even small money, tax should be applied, tax be charged.
Right.
In that regard, the target amount is not that much important. But actually, tax has two sides of coin aspects. One, if there is income, you have to pay tax.
Right.
But when you pay tax, you're expecting social welfare.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can charge tax because there is income or inflow to capital.
Right.
But in return, I'm paying tax, so I'm expecting naturally some social welfare. So likewise, EITC, Earned Income Tax Credit.
Right.
I'm under taxing point, so I should be, paid. I should get money from tax support from the government. If simply aggregate all this and the amount, EITC, the government has to support.
So actually, there will be even more expenditure on the government side
this is
the revenue side?
Kind of money that government has to observe, have to pay for these non-paying, under taxing point religious group will be much huge or bigger than.
But that's a better thing, right? Because we will be doing this more principled way.
Yeah.
I mean, if we have to cover people who need help, we will cover them.
Yes.
And then everybody has to do the same thing on the same
So my point I'm making is I don't think government is trying to make additional tax revenue, even though it's a 10 or 20 billion.
Right,
but government is trying to build a principle. Which I agree, but system should be there, and not enough system is there.
Overall, let's wrap up our discussion here. Ernst, what do you see in terms of implementation? You still want extension of the probation or grace period a little bit further, and then maybe sunset system. But realistically, that's your argument. But realistically, what's going to happen?
Well, let's go back to the point. My argument: the government is trying to build a principle, not generate additional tax revenue. If I'm right, then to build the principle is something that everyone should agree upon, and it needs general consensus among the interest parties.
Okay.
And as
but
the Professor Chess said,
public is seeing that very small number of minority is holding back.
No, we have to think about two parts: general public and religious group themselves.
I see.
Within themselves, has not been enough general consensus.
I see.
But fundamentally speaking, I don't think there is resistance not paying tax. Well, the general publics who are offering, who are donating money, they need transparency. They're requiring transparency.
Right.
So it's unavoidable.
Okay.
So it's a matter of time and system and consensus to be built within them, and government has to talk to them. So think about a religious revolution. It took a long time,
Right.
So 50 years looks like a long time, but we cannot. Enough is enough.
Okay.
So I think in the digital world, we have to set a time goal. Within the time goal, we have to approach to meet the common goal and initiate dialogue or implement the system right away.
Consensus and gradualism.
Yeah.
How we should implement the system, and what do you see ahead?
Actually, without enactment itself, it's hard to figure out what's going on inside. So, after act the role, then we can figure out the amount of money we can collect. And then, as time goes by, because they have to pay tax to not violate the tax law, then they eventually can increase the transparency itself. So maybe we also think about the role of the financial, audits.
Right, wonderful. So get it started, and we'll fix the problems one by one. Two very different opinions here, but all the more I think it has made our discussion very, very interesting to our viewers. Because this is very uniquely Korean problem, then again, it has all these ramifications that applies to other societies all around the world. So I have to thank both of my guests, Professor Chae Sang-mi and also Professor Ernst Lee, for sharing this wonderful perspective. And we want to thank our viewers who have joined from all around the world for our discussion of these issues that matters for Korea as well as the world. And next time when we have this discussion again, we want to ask you to join once again. Until then, this has been Kim Byung-jun. Thank you very much.